Hello. All right. So we're live at 7 o'clock. If you're here, tell me you're here. Make sure you tell me if you can hear me because I feel like I'm whispering, but let me know if you're here. Give me a hashtag live. If you are watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay. All right. So today we are talking about me. We're talking about job analysts and specifically our commitment to context, how important context is. So I'm going to introduce myself and then I'm going to get into myself, this part of me that I love, right? So I'm Angela M. Zachary, the owner of the Inside Track Career Services. Hey, Tammy. And I help job seekers simplify their job searches using little known HR strategies that I've learned over a long career in HR. Okay, so what's a job analyst? What am I? A job analyst is sort of exactly what it sounds like. I'm somebody who analyzes jobs. And if that sounds odd, I guess maybe it is a little odd. So I learn about jobs. I learn about jobs in employers or within companies. I learn about jobs in the market, and I help employers decide what to do with their jobs. That's in terms of naming jobs, creating jobs, writing job descriptions, and deciding, sometimes most importantly, how much to pay for these jobs, right? So a job analyst learns jobs well enough to make all these decisions and to support the business in all these decisions. It's the reason why I can speak to somebody in tech with a level of understanding, having never fully truly worked in tech. It's the reason why I can talk to an accountant about accounting, and I hate accounting. It's the reason why I can understand different jobs, having never actually worked in them. It's because I study jobs as a practice. It is my practice. It is what I do. It's why when somebody mentions their work, I'm immediately listening in because I'm an analyst. I analyze jobs. It's what I do. And a big part of that is context, right? I've said it before and I'll continue to say it. If you are a job seeker, context is so important because it keeps you from wasting time on bad bets. It keeps you from applying to 500 jobs that aren't going to work for you, right? So we're going to talk today about context, specifically as a job seeker. Okay. So why does context even matter in your job search strategy? Why do you have to care about the context that the employer is working in? Important reasons. So employers want to hire, right? They want to hire the right talent into the right job at the right time. That is the ultimate goal. Whether they say it or not, that is their ultimate goal. They want the right talent in the right job at the right time. Why do I say all those three things? If you are an exceptional, experienced accountant, you've got many years of experience, you've got um, a track record of success, right? If they only need an intermediate level accountant that they can train a bit and then make them what they want, they don't need you. You're not a good hire for them because you don't fit into their context, right? They're not looking for somebody with 10 years of experience. They're looking for somebody who can do a certain job and all they feel it requires is a few years of experience, right? So that makes you, even though you're exceptional at your job, not a good hire because this is not the time that they need you. If you are a writer, and right now a lot of writers and editors are having difficulty finding work, especially copywriters, right? If you're a great writer, or if you're a new writer, let's say if you're a newer writer, or somebody with just a few years of experience, and the market is deciding, okay, not only do we not quite want writers because of things like ChatGPT and different AI writing tools, but if we are going to hire a writer, it's going to be the best of the best of the best. So even if you are willing to learn, and even if you do have like some work under your belt in this context, that is not going to be those are not going to be roles that you're going to be able to fill because they're not looking for someone like you. And so if you are not the right talent for them in the job that they have right now at the right time when they need it, it is not going to be a good fit for you. You're going to have a harder time if you are trying to pursue employers or industries even that don't value what you have to offer at this moment, right? So, right talent, right job, right time. That is the name of the game. We are not creating jobs for the heck of it. I've said this before. We don't create jobs just for fun because jobs come with costs, right? It costs to recruit, it costs to get help from recruiters or to post. It costs to give you benefits. It costs a company just to even have a position available, right? So no employer is just creating jobs, right? Nobody's doing it for the heck of it. If they create a job, it's because they need it right now. Okay. So outside of those scenarios, this is not outside of those scenarios, you would not be a good fit for a role if you are not the right talent in the right job at the right time. And right job has something to do with leveling. So let's talk about that. So how does a job analyst influence job descriptions and salaries? Like, how do we influence jobs, period, right? So I said I'm an analyst and I study jobs, I analyze jobs, but I don't just say, oh, okay, well, an accountant does X, Y, and Z, and now I know, right? That's not all I do. So when I was a fledgling job analyst, I'm talking pretty much brand new to it. We used to have to write what we call studies, and a study is a study, an in-depth look of a job, right? And a study could be a page if you were really good, or if there was nothing going on with the job, or it could be 10 pages. It depended, right? These were long narrative reports to explain a job because, like I said, we study jobs, we analyze jobs to figure out all the nuts and bolts, all the pieces that maybe if you were just looking at a job announcement, you might not see, you might not understand all the moving parts. But that is what we do. We figure out all the moving parts of the job so that we can understand it and figure out, how to level, how to title it, how to level it in our organization, and of course, how to pay it. So I learned way back then, we had kind of a structure to writing these studies. And back then I thought it was silly until I realized the structure provides context that is important for these decisions, right? So I always learned before you do anything, give background, right? Background meaning what happened with this job, what kinds of decisions have we made around this kind of job. Maybe this employee tried to get their title changed 15 times. Like whatever the background is, we needed context to frame our next steps, right? So if I know something has gone on with this job in the last 10 years, then I am researching this job to find context and figure out what is the thing that has changed, right? How is this job different from what it was before? And that was important because it frames your decisions going forward. The decisions I made in that role affected everybody in that government system. Because once I made the decision about the job, it was made, right? And that is the way it works for job analysis. That context or that whatever happens in that job or the decisions that get made surrounding that job become the context through which that organization views it. So how does that translate for you? If the context of a job is that between the hiring manager, the job analyst, and recruitment, they've decided that the need is for, I'll just say, a software engineer. We need somebody with 4 years of experience. And the reason we know that is because based on what we need them to do, based on our current right now need, or a need in the future, like if there's a project or something, our internal data tells us that our successful staff with 4 years of experience can do this job, right? So now we know, we think it'll take about 4 years of experience. And it's the same with education. If nobody on their staff has a degree, but they're working well, then it's probably the case that you don't need a degree for that job, right? And so they'll make that decision. And then we'll look at market data. And when I say market, I mean external. So competitors, even if they are not employers in the same scope. So a competitor for a nonprofit organization that hires software engineers might be Google. Google's not a nonprofit, but they frequently take software engineers from other companies, right? So your market is the source of talent pool, right? The talent pool that the employer has, and also organizations that work in the same scope, which tend to be people who have the same talent pool. So, based on all of this data, all of these inputs, the skills that they need, we decide what the job is and who we need for that job. And so, after we've researched the job and understood it, this all you see after all that is the job description and potentially a salary, depending on where you live. But we decide based on all of that, those two factors that go out into the world. You don't know unless you do what I'm going to say next. You don't know what went into that decision. You just see a job description and a salary. But within that, there have been all kinds of conversations, all kinds of decisions, some of which have been kind of set as part of the system in that organization, which I talk about often as well. Um, but that is how the analyst is influencing that recruitment or that posting. And so, if you think about it, someone who has researched the internal market for that job, meaning the other employees in the company, and the market for that job, has just influenced what you see on the screen. So if any part of that makes you believe that maybe the job is fake or and some organizations do supposedly underpay, but also again, they're thinking about their market, right? And so that context is important for you because you want to understand, well, if the employer has said they're going to pay $90,000 for this job, and I'm used to seeing it at 120, then that tells me that their market is different from the markets that I've been looking at. And so you can decide whether or not that works for you. But and also if they're in a market that is not hiring for your role, but you've seen those your roles in other organizations, okay, then those must be different markets. There's something happening between these organizations that means that they don't align. So thinking about the context that the employer is working in, what they need and what their market is can help you think like a job analyst when you decide what kinds of jobs to even apply for. So back to being a job analyst, how can you position yourself as the right fit in the mindset of a job analyst, right? Because, like I said, we think about all the things that went before that job description came out or before that salary was decided, right? We're thinking about all those things as part of the context for that organization. So, do your research. Always do your research. I feel like it's one of my most hated phrases, but seriously, do your research because markets change so fast. Markets change every day. One day Google can be hiring and the next day Google can be firing. And frankly, sometimes they're doing both at the same time, right? Because it depends on what the need is at that moment. And not to say that, reductions in force are great, but also there's context that goes behind those as well. So always be watching the market and watching your industry and your specific role to figure out where you fit. If you're not seeing entry level jobs, but you have entry level skills and experience, then you're going to have to make a shift. Maybe you find somewhere where your skills are valuable, but maybe not in that industry. Or maybe you start looking in different industries that are still safe and somewhat isolated. And that there's a lot that goes into that as well, where some industries can hire the same role. One industry is safe from any adjustments in the market and another's not. So again, research, figure out which market can carry you, right? Don't go for your dream job if the market says that it can't support it. And I know that that probably does not sound like a very coachy thing for me to say, but I do genuinely mean it. If your dream job, I talked to someone recently, they wanted to be a recruiter. And I know that when hiring goes down, hiring of recruiters goes down as well. It's a correlation that actually happens in the market. And so if your dream job is not being lifted in the market, in fact, if it's actually going down in the market, then you are going to have to pivot. You're going to have to adjust in order to find a role that helps you get to where you want to be. And I'm a realist before anything. I'm not going to tell you, yes, go get that recruiter job if I know nobody's hiring recruiters, right? So think about what your market can support. And then lastly, speak what you see. And when I say speak what you see, I mean that employer did not go through all of that work, all of that research, all of that market analysis to write a JD that they did not want to see, right? If I write a JD, a job description, sorry, if I write a job description, the person I'm going to choose is going to look like that job description. If I say I want 10 years of experience, I'm going to be looking for someone with 10 years of experience. If I say I want someone who's skilled in healthcare, I don't know, some healthcare field, then I'm going to look for the person who has that, right? Because I didn't write that JD for my health. I wrote it because I had a need. And the person who's going to be most successful is the one who is going to demonstrate that they can supply what I need at this moment, right? And so if you see a job, when you're looking at a job description, it's just very simple. Underline, and maybe I'll get into this in another episode, but underline the areas that are clearly important, right? So if they're saying we need somebody to make copies and the job is not for a person who makes copies, that's not important. But if it's for maybe like a nurse, well, is it bedside or is it administrative nurse? That's important for you to know, because that's going to tell you which skills you need to speak back to them, right? It's going to tell you what experience you need to demonstrate and highlight in order for them to understand that you're the right fit for the job at the right time. But just remembering, not, and please don't copy and paste the job description. That's not what we're talking about. Folks like me actually dive into your experience a lot of the time to figure out if you truly do qualify for that role. And if so, how do you stack up against the folks we already have? So it's important for you to be very clear in how you align with that job description, because again, they thought it through. And if there's a job analyst anywhere on the team, we are going to be thinking about it as well. So you want to be able to speak to the recruiter and the hiring manager, and like I said last week, the job analyst too, so that we can all look at it and figure out, does this person actually align with the need we have? Because the worst thing is for us to have a need, fill the job, and find that the person we filled it with actually does not fill the need. That is the worst thing for us and for you. So as a job seeker, remember that context matters more than how many hashtags you put in your post on LinkedIn, more than how catchy your headline is on LinkedIn, more than what colors you put in your resume. Context matters the most, because jobs are created within a context. There's nobody making jobs for the heck of it, I promise. So with that said, I want to see you all next Monday. I haven't decided what we're going to talk about, but you'll find out. All right. And if you have ideas, suggestions, stuff you actually want to hear about, feel free to let me know. Drop it in the chat, or in the chat after you watch a replay. And yeah, I'll see y'all next Monday at 7. All right. Take care.